Habits drive your behavior. If you get in those type of habits, it's really hard to get out of that. And then what happens is you start looking at yourself and you just have this sense of hopelessness of how am I ever going to get out of this? And so that's where my journey first started to take me is what's the answer to that question? How do I get past these negative forces that are just telling me that I'll never be able to achieve this?
This is the Home of Healthspan podcast, where we profile health and wellness role models, sharing their stories and the tools, practices, and routines they use to live a lively life. Jonathan, it is a pleasure to have you on the Home of Healthspan today, bright and early your time. So I appreciate you coming on so early. But before we jump into it and everything you've done and are doing, how would you describe yourself?
I'm a lively lifestyle change behavior coach. That's something I've spent the last few years focusing on, and I'm very excited and lively about and passionate about that. So that's how I describe myself.
That's amazing. I mean, to me, that is the killer app for human success. If you can change lifestyle and behavior, you can change everything about your life. And it applies to any realm, your professional life, your personal life, your love life, everything you do. But for you, it really started in a specific area with a specific issue you were facing, I understand. And from what I know of your story, it really spoke to me because it seems to really mirror a lot of what I saw with my own father. But so that I don't tell your story, could you describe a little bit how you got into this work?
Yeah, absolutely. It really started with my mother and actually myself. My mother had been battling obesity for years, and I had my battles off and on as well. And in December of 2013, she'd been on blood thinners for another health issue, and she'd got a wound in her leg that was hard to heal. And so fast forward in February of 2014, we put her into a rehab home. And during that time, I was doing my best to try to motivate her and say, Mom, you're going to overcome this. I can help you. And I started writing down little motivational notes for her. And I looked at myself and said, well, how am I going to help her when I'm pushing almost 300 pounds? And then I had something happen to me while I was at work. I felt like I was having a stroke. There was a tingling sensation that happened on the left side of my body, went from my foot all the way up to my face. I ran to the bathroom, threw water on my face, and I was fine. I went to the doctor, said everything is fine, but I wasn't fine because I knew it was because I was almost I thought it was because I was almost pushing 300 pounds. In April of 2014 was my last good conversation with her. And she said, Jonathan, this is not going to help me. Your motivational notes are great. Please pass along, help yourself, help your family, your friends. But I'm in a position where my body is winning the battle. And 2 months later, she passed away. And it really touched me because I thought to myself, for myself and for her, how is it that we cannot change our lifestyle? We can't change, in this case, obesity, when we know it's going to kill us or hurt our health or whatever the case may be. I had a 2-year-old daughter at the time. How is it that we can't do that? And that's where it really led me down the passion of I need to understand this. I need to find an answer to this, and that led me to become write a book and become a certified personal trainer, health coach, master coach, just to really understand the answer to that question. Because there's so many millions of people that suffer from obesity.
And that number, sadly, is only growing. I mean, not just for adults, but for children. And I think we know when you set that base weight level, your body's always trying to get back to it. So it makes it harder the earlier that you start suffering from that as a child. You know, they say to change the world, you got to start with yourself.
Absolutely.
And it seemed like that was a little bit of your aha moment of like, hey, I can't just do this from home. I need to look internally. So as you were getting into coaching, as you were getting into writing the book, as you were getting into, hey, I'm going to go save other people's lives with this work, what did that work internally start looking like?
Well, you're absolutely right. I started with myself. I mean, because at the time, my daughter was very young, and I said, I've got to be here for my daughter and my wife and my family. So I looked internally and I said, what is it? Why can't I look at my daughter and say, okay, I'm just going to jump in and do this? And so I started with that and really started. And where that took me was the answer to that question, which basically is that in the research of 40 to 50% of our behavior is habitual. And a lot of times it's automatic. So you do things that are automatic. And a lot of times that's a good thing. You want habits that are good, that you don't have to think about. But then there's also habits that, for me, for obesity, that started to happen because I would justify. So there would be a trigger, something that would say, "Look, I want to reduce the stress in my life," and then I would justify, well, I'll work out tomorrow. I can do this today because I'm tired. I don't have time. And that thought process continually dominated me to where I just continued to eat and got into that habitual pattern of thinking that way. And because of the fact that habits drive your behavior, if you get in those type of habits, it's really hard to get out of that. And then what happens is you start looking at yourself and you just have this sense of hopelessness of, I'll never get out of this. How am I ever going to get out of this? And so that's where my journey first started to take me is, what's the answer to that question? How do I get past these negative forces that are just telling me that I'll never be able to achieve this?
Yeah, and you touched on a couple of things there. I mean, one, you touched on working out, and so somehow how we move our body, what we do with it, and then the other was I'm just going to eat more and the fueling. But then I think where you finish it, maybe actually where we have to start for most people, which is the whole mindset behind it. Was there a specific day? Was there a period of time? Like, what did that change in mindset? Because I can give you an example for my dad, right? Like each person kind of gets their own aha moment. So my father was a pediatric cardiologist, right? Like he went to med school. This is what he did for a living. He's talking about heart health, and he's 6'5", and so
Right.
he was larger, but it didn't look that big because he was so tall. And I got him Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Body. I don't know if you're familiar with this book, but Tim Ferriss wrote the 4-Hour Work Week, all these others, but the 4-Hour Body. And one of the chapters is how to lose 30 pounds of fat in 30 days without ever being hungry, without dieting. And I gave it to my dad and he read it. And one of the stories in the chapter was this NASA scientist who was out shopping for clothes. And he thought to himself, why does it matter? I'm not going to look good in anything I get. I'm so overweight. It's just going to be gross. And then the guy thought to himself, wait, I'm a NASA scientist. I'm great at anything I choose to do. I can do this. I'm going to be great at this. And he completely changed his life. And my dad, being who my dad is, said, wait, I'm great at anything I want to do. I can be great at this. And so he went and lost 65 pounds over the next 12 months and put thousands of patients on this slow carb diet and really changed a bunch of lives. But that was this wake up call. I was reading this one story and he had this realization, wait, I'm a very accomplished person. When I choose to go do something, I'm going to now choose to go do this. Did you have a similar kind of Damascene moment?
Oh, I absolutely did. So the time I told you when I felt like I was having a stroke and I ran to the bathroom, threw water on my face. About a few days later, I told my wife to take a picture of me. I said, I need you to take a picture of me, which I share. I said, because this can't stand. I cannot live my life like this. So she took a picture of me and, front angle, side angle. I looked at it and I said, I can't live my life like this. I can do better than this. And I got to find a way. And at that time of that picture, I didn't know where I was going to go, what I was going to do, but I knew that this was not going to define my life. And at that moment, and that was in February of 2014, I said, I'm going to find a path. I don't know what that path is, but this will not stand because I won't allow that. And so that was the moment for me that really ignited my passion, ignited my focus, and really just said, how am I going to solve this?
Yeah. And I mean, there's this coming out. My father, obviously, high performer. You're a Stanford grad, high performer. Do you think you have to be that level of high performer to override this? Or, I mean, you've worked with so many clients. Is it anybody with that right trigger, with that right motivation can make this kind of change?
Oh, absolutely. Everyone has this in them. Everyone has superpowers or unique things that make them unique in them right now that have the strength. The problem is they get buried in this self-shame, body shaming. How did I let myself get like this? There's no way out. Those start to rise to the surface of your mindset. But if you dig in and you reach into that superpower and you start talking about your why and all these different things, the strengths that you have right now, that everybody has right now, there is no reason why you can't beat it. There is no reason. And so that's what I had to tap into. Like you mentioned, I was a Stanford grad. I had a successful career, and I started to feel guilty about, well, if I have these successful things, why can't I do this as something that's so important to my health? And so once I started moving past that mindset, as far as, hey, don't body shame, don't make yourself feel this this type of person. Let's focus on the solution. And you have the solution inside of you, which everybody does. Then things started to turn. I started to develop a plan and really turn my life around.
Well, let's talk about that solution and that plan, because to your point, anybody can do this, but like they say about a lot of things, it may be simple, but it's not easy necessarily.
That's right.
So it's a simple plan. So the first step, is it that why? Is it that aha moment? What's that first step working along that plan?
So the first step is building a foundation, meaning that just like if you're building a house, the first thing they do is build a foundation. Why? Because that will provide the structure for the house, protect the house during the longevity. So the first thing is you have to have a foundation that you build upon. And what I mean by that is 5 steps in the foundation. First is, and can be easy for some people and maybe not for others, is you have to know that you have to have a problem to solve. You have to have a sense of awareness that you have a problem to solve, and you have to acknowledge it. You have to take ownership. Hey, I have a problem to solve, and there's no shame in that. Once you acknowledge, you take ownership of it. The second thing is, what exactly is your problem to solve? So I really had to think about, I was obese, but was it my nutrition? Was it my not lack of exercise? What it ended up being was every time I felt stress, I would turn to food in order to get that reward of relief and relaxation and find a way to justify that. That was my problem to solve. And so once you acknowledge you have a problem, you know exactly what your problem is, then you dig into your why. And your why is really, really important for your foundation, because the reason why your why is important is because there's always something that's going to rise up that says, Jonathan, you can't do this. Remember, you have anxiety, or you have stress, or you have financial stress, whatever it is, something's going to rise up to say, you can't do this. And your why, the reason why you want to make this change, has to be your best friend, because it's going to be right there beside you, picking you back up and say, remember your why. It's your deep reason for wanting to change. And then the last 2 things of the foundation is that you have to be ready to make a change, and that you have to believe that you can. And the reason why those are the first 5 is because if you're not ready to make a change, then you won't. If you don't know you have a problem to solve, then you certainly won't take action. And that's the foundation you build upon, because everything else can build from there. So once I established that foundation of those 5 steps, those 5 things that became my core, then my confidence started to grow, and I started to build from there. But you have to have those 5 things, especially your why, in order to move forward.
Yeah, I mean, that really speaks to me. I started to keep coming back to my father, but it's just such a parallel story on the realization when he finally said, hey, I'm tall, I look like this, but I'm not healthy, right? Like I can change it. And then his why, not coincidentally, coincided with his first granddaughter being born and wanting to be there for her. So he had this why of, hey, I do want to be healthier. And then getting to the I can do this, that aha moment. Wait a minute. Like, this guy realized he was great. He could do this, and he went and did it. I'm a smart guy. I'm a capable guy. I can do this. And really, those were the steps. I've never heard him articulated that way, but just watching him and his journey, it really speaks to the power of this framework you're setting up.
It is. The why is it is really hard to overstate how important the why is, because when you wake up in the morning, you look at yourself in the mirror and you don't see any change, your why is going to be there to remind you, hey, you're doing this for your granddaughter. You're doing this for your daughter. You're doing this for a better life. Keep going. And the other thing I'd just say, what is really, really important is self-care in the sense of self-forgiveness. Forgive yourself for the feelings that you have about yourself. Maybe you're frustrated, maybe you're angry that you're at yourself. You have to have self-compassion and forgive yourself as you go on and build your plan for lifestyle change. That's really important, because mentally, obesity can hurt you physically, obviously, but it can tear you up mentally to where you don't want to move forward whatsoever. So self-care, self-compassion, forgiveness is really, really important as you move forward.
May I ask a specific question on that? Because there have been so many people I've come across in so many aspects of life, but definitely when it comes to food and eating things that we shouldn't be eating or have told ourselves not to eat. And you'll be good for a day, a week, some period of time. And then it's a birthday party or something. You have the cake and then say, well, today's ruined. So then they just eat trash the rest of the day. Or this week's ruined. I'm going to eat trash the rest of the week. Or now the whole diet's ruined. I'm just going to eat trash going forward. Have you seen something that helps move past that, right? Like you think a golfer, if they hit a bad shot, like, well, this round's ruined, I'm just going to hit bad shots the rest of the time and say, no, that was one shot. The next shot's my new opportunity. Why is it so difficult for us in that nutrition thing and say, okay, yeah, at lunch, I had cake at the birthday. Let me forgive myself. Like, that's fine. It's one thing out of 100 meals, maybe I'm going to have, I can get right back on it my next meal. I don't have to throw everything out. What works or doesn't in that? Because I see it fail so many times.
Oh, it does all, and that was part of my story as well too. What happens is you get into the behavior, the habit of telling yourself, well, when this happens, this is going to be my reaction. So when I eat a piece of cake, then my mindset tells me I've ruined the day, and now I'm going to move forward with eating bad for the rest of the day. So the first thing is you've got to change the mindset, change the fact that just because you eat a piece of cake doesn't mean that it ruins the rest of the day. But that is a new neural pathway that you need to create for yourself to say, when that happens, this is how I'm going to think. And it sounds hard at first, but it does work. So when I eat something that I know I shouldn't have eaten, then my mind, instead of just going the rest of the day and just eating poorly, I'm not going to let that happen. I'm not going to let that happen. So it's easy to say, but one of the things you can do, so one of the things you did, what helped me was I didn't really beat myself up. So if I had a piece of cake and then my goal was, I knew I couldn't go the rest of the day and just be good the rest of the day if I still had the mindset. So I said, let me just go an hour. Let me just go 2 hours where I'm healthy, even if I go the rest of the day poorly. And then I focus on those 2 hours. See, Jonathan, those 2 hours, you didn't have to go the rest of the day. You had success for 2 hours. And I just built slowly upon that and celebrated that little bit of progress. Because chances are you're not just going to make this one transformational change to say, well, I'm just going to change my mindset. It's little baby steps at a time. So when that happened to me in my life, and that happened to me a lot, I would say when that happens, I'm going to find 2 hours in which I just drink water. I'm good. I'm going to eat something healthy, even if I blew the rest of the day. And I focus and celebrate those 2 hours and just slowly build from there. So I started to change my mindset.
Most corporate wellness programs overwhelm employees with too much, or they offer too little to be useful. Lively gets it right. We start with each employee's data and goals, then serve one clear, personalized action at a time. No noise, just real behavioral change. The outcome? A healthier, happier workforce and measurable impact for your business. Visit alively.com to see personalized wellness in action.
This seems to be a lot around, because we talked about fitness, and I'm sure there's sleep components and social connection, but it seems the biggest component really is nutrition. The adage I always hear: you lose ounces in the gym and pounds in the kitchen.
That's
so
right.
It's about what we eat and how we eat and when we eat. What have you found in your own experience in working with clients works and doesn't work on that side? Because our bodies evolved for a world to keep us alive, where we didn't necessarily know when and where our next meal would come from. So storing fat was a tool our body developed to be able to help us survive certain situations. We now do not live in that environment. And so these tools that served us in one way have now become weapons used against us in a lot of ways in our health. And so how have you found navigating this modern world we live in?
Where I start is not necessarily, it goes back to why, not necessarily with what you're eating, because most people know when you're dealing with obesity, most people know, hey, I should be eating healthy chicken breasts and broccoli as opposed to this piece of cake. They may not know carbs break into glucose and amino acids and all those type of things. They may know the specifics, but most people know I should not be eating this. So then the real start is, well, what is the reason why? What is the reason why? Where does it break down to where you feel like you need to have that particular meal as opposed to something that you know is good for me? So that's where we focus. Because if you focus on, hey, you shouldn't be eating this, I know that. I know I shouldn't be eating that. But what's the reason why I choose that as opposed to choosing something else? So then everyone's unique. Everyone has a different reason as to why they choose that. But that's really where we start, because that is what permanent change is all about. Once you understand that about yourself, and it's not as difficult, and a lot of people know the answer to that reason, then it's a lot easier because the end result is the food that you choose. But where you need to start is, I had a stressful day at work. I feel overwhelmed. I have financial issues, whatever the case. We have to start there and then slowly build, because once you have a solution for that, then it's much easier to make the decision to eat healthier.
Can I ask a little more there? Because I mean, for me, I can stress eat, right? If I'm stressful all day,
Right.
And two, I have a sweet tooth personally, so cookies, cake, like it just tastes delicious. I like
Absolutely.
it. And after a stressful day, after a long day, when I'm tired, I don't have much self-control. If there's something there, I'm 1,000 times more likely to eat. In the morning, I have zero. I'm not going to do it. At lunch,
Right.
nope, not going to do it. But come post dinner time before bed, it's a lot harder. And so for me, I've just had to not keep those things in the house, right? If it's difficult for me to go, and now I guess everything's easy because you could order Uber Eats or whatever and get some ice cream delivered. But I don't, because it's just that one extra step. Whereas if I could just walk to the fridge, then I go get something. Knowing kind of your triggers, or even knowing the why, you can know the why and still slip into habits. Do you have help that you give people on, okay, you know your why, but let's set you up for success. Let's not put you where we're constantly tempting you or making it more difficult than it needs to be.
Yeah, that's exactly what you said earlier. What you just said as far as your environment. It's easy to, hey, I'm going to take this out of my environment. But we live in a world now where it's easy to get access to different types of things. So what really try to hone in on is, where does it break down? You mentioned you're good at breakfast, you're good at lunch, but you're not good at dinner. So let's focus on, well, I come home, I'm tired, I don't feel like cooking. And so at that point, let's center on what we can do in that particular situation. For example, maybe there's food that you can prepare very quickly. Like for myself, I know when I get home, if I'm in that situation, if there's food in my pantry that is healthy, that's easy for me to cook, or that's already done, I know that I'll do that rather than choose to go do something healthy. So again, we focus on, where does the breakdown happen? Why does it happen? And being able to set your environment up for success. Because I have found that people will remove things, but it's hard to do when you have kids. If kids want those things that you're not supposed to eat, like you mentioned, Uber Eats, it's easy just to order something really quickly. We have things that are open 24 hours. So now it's more important than ever to realize, well, why am I in that situation in the first place? What can I do earlier in the day? Like, what can you do at lunch before you get home to so you don't put yourself in that situation in the first place? And once you identify what that is, start turning that into a habit. And then you won't have to worry about, hey, I'm tired of this, that, because it's already a habit. I know when I get home, I'm going to have something healthy. I'm going to eat this. It starts to become a part of your behavior. So that's what we really start to focus on, because that's, again, in order to make permanent change, it really starts with, what are the reasons that you're in this situation in the first place, and how do we attack that?
You mentioned kids as kind of an excuse to keep unhealthier food or snacks or something around the house. And I'm curious, we recently had two guests from We Natal, who talked about, you get these baby registries that people would put, I want the non-toxic detergent because we're going to wash the baby's clothes. And they say, well, why wouldn't you want the non-toxic detergent for yourself? Like, why would anyone want to put toxicity into their life? And here it sounded almost like the opposite of like, hey, I'm going to go fuel myself with all these healthy foods, but I need these really unhealthy ones to go give to the kids because it's what they want. I mean, is there something it's kind of our jobs as parents, knowing the society, knowing what it's led to in our own life, not to set them up for the same failure 10, 20 years down the road, to say, hey, if we know fresh plants, fresh animals are the right answer to fuel our bodies, shouldn't we do that for our whole family?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you absolutely, if we can do it for our entire families, that is the absolute way to go. But now, I can take my own daughter, for example. They get exposed to other foods from schools and around their friends, and they want to try different things. But the absolute best way is, if your environment, meaning your family, the people that live in your home, if you are all aligned in the same direction with regard to nutrition, moving your body, all those type of things, it is going to set you up for success very easily. But, and sometimes that doesn't happen. And sometimes you have to work with people where the kids, they want different foods, or their spouse, they want different things. And those things that they want may not be may not be in line with your success. And so that's a very real situation that you have to navigate as well, too. But you're right, Andrew. If you can create an environment where everyone's moving to the same tune, absolutely, that is the easiest and best way to make lifestyle behavior change permanent.
Yeah, you can't want something for someone else. They have to want it. And I mean, at least in my experience with my daughter and nieces and friends' kids, it's what I've seen that when the kids get the realization how different they feel when they eat certain foods versus others. And when you keep helping them, hey, remember, like, let's have this. And then let's track in 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour how you're feeling versus when you eat this other thing. Kids, a lot of times, like, whoa, when I consistently eat those sweet rolls or those donuts, the next hour is awful. Whereas when I eat this fruit or I eat this oatmeal, I actually feel really good and I go play and I'm having fun. That it's a really different world I live in.
It is, and what I've learned as well too, that the kids will follow your lead, and that's where my guilt started to follow in because I was not setting a good example for my daughter. I mean, when they're really young, and even as they grow up, if you are eating healthy and you're stressing the importance of nutrients and moving your body, and what you just said about how well you feel, if you're setting that example in your household, then they are set up for success as well too. And that's what I struggled with is I'm not setting my daughter up for success because look at the message that I'm sending her that it's okay to be this way. And so, that hits home. That really does hit home.
Yeah, a friend told me before my daughter was born, kids won't always do what you say, but they will do what you do.
Yes.
And so back to that change has to start internally. Okay, so we've set the foundation and you're really understanding the why and working forward. Once you have that established, that foundation, what are the next steps for people who are trying to have this lifestyle, this habit change to go live a different way than they have been maybe for years or decades?
The next set of steps is to focus on you. When I mean focus on you, meaning that you make your health, your mental and physical health, the number one priority in your life. And a lot of people struggle with that. So, well, what about my job? And what I said, I want to tell them that's important to you. You're not going to sacrifice those things. Obviously, if you have to pick up your kids from school, that's going to be important. Obviously, those type of things. But you're no longer going to make excuses for yourself. You're going to treat yourself, your body, your mind as the number one priority. And once you start to make that shift, meaning that I'm not going to put off if I can do a 10-minute walk for somebody else, if I can do that. I'm not going to put off therapy or mental health or the types of things that are going to help me mentally. I'm no longer going to put those things off. So that is the really next step to really make that commitment. I talked about self-care, self-forgiveness, forgive yourself, and you just don't know how relieving that is. And then you can start focusing on the importance of sleep, the importance of, and I first was introduced this by an author named James Clear, Atomic Habits, who said, determine the person that you want to become. Because once you have the foundation, and you can always go back to that foundation, then you start to focus on number one, health in your body, determine the person you want to become. And then, Andrew, I'm going to say something that's probably not going to be, people are going to be motivated to do this, but you have got to go to the doctor to understand what is going on inside of your body on the inside. So to really change your lifestyle, are you pre-diabetic? Are you diabetic? Or do you have high blood pressure? All of these things that you need that may not show symptoms on the outside, you've got to understand what is going on inside of you. Because in order to truly create a plan that's going to work for you, you got to know, you got to do a checkup and understand what do you need to focus on. So when you make self-care important, determine the person you want to become, get enough sleep, self-forgiveness, and do an internal check. Understand what is the state of your body so that you can formulate a plan. Hey, I've got high blood pressure. I'm going to go after that. My triglycerides are a little bit higher, or this is really good and I need to keep doing what I'm doing. Those are important. That is critical information so that you can understand your health. It's better to know than to not know.
Yeah, that's incredibly important. And you said people might not be that motivated, but I mean, thanks to Obamacare, like we all get an annual physical. So right. It's free, guys. You have to, there's really very little excuse not to go get it. And if you want to up it a level, you have things like Function Health that will look over the course of the year and give you really, really in-depth look at your blood. Yeah. Whoop just launched Whoop Labs. And there's so many other options. Get Healthspan. If you're on one of their protocols, they do it, I think, every 6 weeks. So there are ways to see, hey, let me get a baseline and let me see if the things I'm doing are having an impact and what is and what isn't, so I can double down on those. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, you need to know your starting point, and you need to know, am I moving in the right direction? What is the scoreboard I'm working towards?
Yeah, and if your body's giving you signs right now to go get yourself checked out. So that's from a physical standpoint so that you understand. And here's the other thing, then, because, and what I work with my clients on is when you're dealing with obesity, a lot of times you'll use the scale as a way of measuring your success or look in the mirror. And I say, we're not going to pay attention to that because you could go for a 10-minute walk and do it for weeks. And maybe your body doesn't change on the outside, but inside you're getting healthier. You're affecting your metabolism, you're affecting your blood flow, your A1C. There's so many things going on inside that are making you healthier. So those are the things that we need to measure our progress on. And so understanding where you are, and you just feel better mentally. When you go, waiting for test results is one of the most stressful things. But once you know and you have a plan and you say, okay, this is where I am, it is so relieving to be able to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do now to move forward.
Can I ask there too? Because when you're looking at metrics, whether it's a scale or blood work, whatever it is, there's this destination mindset. Okay, now I've hit it. I'm good. Whereas your health is truly the Simon Sinek infinite game, right? It is the game of life. And so how do you, when you're working with clients, think about the destination, which for every single one of us is death,
Right.
versus the process? And really, when you talk about, hey, well, what about my job? What about my relationships? All this. In my experience, when I'm healthier, every one of those things are better. And so falling in love with the process of, hey, I like to move my body every day because I have more energy when I do. I like to fuel with really good things because I don't get these energy crashes or grumpiness like I do if I eat these sugary things. Am I making any sense, that destination versus the process itself?
You are. And as a matter of fact, I don't even focus on the destination. We call those outcome goals. Hey, I'm going to be 50 pounds lighter, or because at the end of the day, you really don't have control over the end result. So let's say your goal is to lose 20 pounds. You could do everything right, but you really don't have control over whether you lose 20 pounds or not. What you do have control over is, I'm going to walk 10 minutes a day. I'm going to make sure that I eat this type of food. I'm going to make sure that when I feel stress, I'm going to do this instead of this. Those are the things you have control over, like you mentioned, process. So when you focus on the process, the things that you have control, not only do you feel more control of your health, not only does it keep you motivated, but the outcome goals and the destination you want are going to happen over time, but you just focus on the process rather than the outcome. Because when you focus on the outcome and it doesn't happen as quickly as you like, or it doesn't happen to the same results, then that can be very devastating and it really throws you off path. So focusing on the things that you can control, and the outcome will take care of itself.
Yeah, it reminds me of a friend who would talk about, he was a founder of a company and would always say up and to the right. And that if on a long enough time horizon, we're going up and to the right, then we're on the right path. Right? It's not about today. It's not about necessarily this week, but am I going up and to the right?
That's exactly right. Are you on the right trajectory? If you're on the right path, right trajectory, everything will take care of itself. And then you'll have more fun because you'll start seeing the results and the progress. And I can't tell you the importance of having fun on your journey is one of the most important things you can do. And when you start focusing on the process and measuring progress in different ways that you may not think, instead of the scale, hey, you know what? I usually don't eat great at all, but I eat great for 2 meals. I'm going to celebrate that. You start to see results and stay motivated. You feel better, and slowly things start to change for you, and it's permanent.
Yeah, it becomes about much more than your weight, right? It is the quality of your life. And the work you've done and are doing is absolutely tremendous. I know you have, there's a lot of steps in there. There's a lot of work to do, but it's straightforward. And you have a playbook for people to be able to follow this journey in their own lives.
Yeah, I do. It's called the 432 Playbook, and it's a lifestyle program. So it helps you when you complete the program that you have designed your own personal lifestyle journey change that you can follow, and it'll be for the rest of your life. Because what happens, Andrew, when you come out of the doctor's office and they say, okay, Jonathan, you're overweight, you need to lose weight, and they'll hand you something, here's like the Mediterranean diet or whatever it is. They don't tell you, okay, well, how am I going to deal with the overwhelm? How am I going to deal with my mental state? They don't what do I do first? I don't know. I've done this before and I feel like a failure and all those things. Not their job to do that, but when you walk out, you have no idea. That's what happened to me. So when I created the 432 Playbook, it gives people a place to start. So the 4 stands for the 4 different areas where you want to set your goals, move your body, eat to eat a healthy life, work on your mental resolve and personal organization. 3 is for 3 months. Give yourself plenty of time in order to achieve those micro goals. And then take progress checks every 2 weeks. That's where the 432 comes from. So by the time you're completed, you have your own lifestyle change program strategy just tailored to you that you can follow. And by the time you're done with it, it goes by very quickly. You've changed your life for the rest of your life. And you don't have this yo-yo effect where I've lost weight and didn't lose weight. So that's where it helps people dealing with obesity that don't know where to start, want to change their lives, and now they have something they can use to help them do that.
Yeah, that's amazing. And for people who want to get their own copy, where can they find that?
Well, 432 Playbook right now is a course and I have a blog that I talk a lot about it, but it's a course. They can go to my website, youcanbeatobesity.com, and they can read all about it. And the course will be coming out in October. And when they go into the course, it really is personalized to them. I can't stress that enough. It's not just this generic, hey, one size fits all. Meaning you where you're at right now. Where are you in your life right now? And taking you from there through this step-by-step, building your lifestyle change journey and helping you deal with the physical and mental devastation of obesity.
You put it succinctly and perfectly in the domain. You can beat obesity. And I appreciate the work you've done to help so many people do that and what you're doing with this course to help even more. So thank you for all the work and especially for your time today. It was wonderful speaking with you.
Hey, Andrew, thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of the Home of Healthspan podcast. And remember, you can always find the products, practices, and routines mentioned by today's guests, as well as many other Healthspan role models on alively.com. Enjoy a lively day.